You should be fed, clothed, and kept by a state institution for the rest of your life. You should be fed, clothed, and kept by a state institution for the rest of your life. You should be fed, clothed, and kept by a state institution for the rest of your life.
In the chapel of the State Correctional Institution at Chester, Pennsylvania, 8 men serving life sentences performed an original theater witness piece about their lives. These are their true stories, performed for families, friends, judges, legislators, victims, and fellow inmates.
Another night, while I'm lying here alone, in my bed so cold, not as warm as yesterday.
Lyons.
16 and a half years.
Carrera.
15 and a half years.
Guglielmi.
6,023 days, and still counting. 16 and a half years.
Attention all areas, attention all areas. We got 2,100 counts commencing, 2,100 counts commencing.
Boyd.
I've been in prison since I was 17 years old. It was 26 years ago. I'm not the same man at age 44 than I was at age 17.
Fouls.
When I first came to the penitentiary, they called me Young Buck. Now they call me Old Head. My number is older than half of the young guys here in the penitentiary. 23 years.
Joyner.
The 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I missed all of them. 31 years.
I thought about my children today and how they had to grow up without a father. Their special days, birthdays, little league games, proms, and first dates. And my mother and my father. How much I wanted to tell my mother I loved her before she passed away. But now my children are all grown up. Do they know me? And do I know them? And how will it end?
Smith.
I had 10,220 days in prison. I was 19 when I came. I'm 47 now.
Jones.
They tried to sentence me to death, but I was too young. So they waited until I turned 19 years old, the whole trial. 6.5 years on death row, 21 years in total.
How did it slip away from me?
If we can just change back the hands of time and do things differently than we did yesterday, it's amazing how a few minutes can change a life, how a few moments can change so many people's lives. The older you get, the more wise you become. You see your mistakes. How do I ask for forgiveness when because of me life was robbed? How do I make amends? When I think about the lives I affected, not just the victim's life, it's hard. It's very hard. Just like I want to live, they wanted to live. But I cannot change back the hands of time.
How did
Attention all areas, attention all areas. We have a recount, we have a recount. Lights on, 2 officers, stand by your door. How did it slip away?
How did it slip away now?
How did it slip away?
How did it slip away now?
How did it slip away?
And our minds have started spinning.
How did it slip away?
And our heart has started winning.
How did it slip away?
Oh, we leave it up to you, Lord.
How did it slip away?
Just make it up to you,
How
Lord.
did it slip away from me?
One very ordinary moment in time. 2 men on the bus. One bends down to fix his boot, while the other sits near him with the radio. No one means anything special to happen, and then there's a collision of circumstances. 2 people are shot, and one dies. The other spends the rest of his life behind bars. Less than 1 minute in time has passed, and all has forever changed. I was 26, successful. I've been in the Navy, gone to Italy and France. I graduated high school, worked in retail. I was born poor in the ghetto, but at the time when they had family unity, there were men in the neighborhoods. Houses had newspapers and milk on the front steps. That's because people trusted each other. I lived in a matriarchy with my mother, who was 16 when she had me, and my grandmother, who was a strong, strong woman. She was my heart. We ate a full-course meal together every evening at 6 p.m., and we never wanted for food, clothing, or shelter. We were poor in money, but rich in love. And my mother and I were the best of friends. Up until that last month, I was working hard, and I was trying to make it in the world, a world that was moving much too fast for me. Then everything started to fall apart. I had no job, I had lost my job. I had no prospects of finding one. I had no money, and I had to move back in with my grandmother. Hopelessness and depression started to set in. I started using drugs and alcohol, which caused me to make some bad choices. The day it happened, I was wearing my jeans, cowboy boots, and flight jacket. I carried a .32 pistol in my pocket that I never planned to use. An ordinary day, nothing special. The victim probably woke up, had breakfast, and said goodbye to his family, expecting to be home later that day. Maybe he got up before his wife that morning. Maybe they made love. Maybe he shaved, looked at television. What was he planning to do that evening? What was his frame of mind when he left the house? Did he know that it would be the end? On the bus, I sat on the seat. The leg of my jean got stuck in my boot and I bent down to fix it. The gun fell out the slit of my pocket and hit the floor. The victim saw it and panicked. I panicked and hit him. His cousin hit me with a radio. I came up and I fired. 2 people were shot and 1 died. It was like a dream, almost hard to describe. You hear shots, bang, bang. You know you pulled the trigger, but you can't believe it happened. You're in deep shock. I flee home. It's like the World Trade Center, a movie. People flying on September 11th. They kiss their loved ones goodbye. Did they know it would be the last time? What were these people thinking? Did they know it would be the end? In the courtroom, I seen the victim's mother and grandmother. I seen my mother. It was horrendous how many lives were affected. I think about that man every day, wishing that I can somehow change back the hands of time. At SCI Dallas, it was hard for me to accept what had happened. I used to watch the men play basketball. I watched them all on the court, and I would mentally eliminate one to see what it meant to have a life taken away. And I think to myself, you took away a father, a son, a husband. You destroyed a family. You are a statistic. And you had everything going for yourself, and here you are. I think about writing the victim's family, but what do I possibly say to them? That I'm sorry? That because of me, a life was robbed? They don't want to hear that. I go over it in my mind. But if I was home and received a letter from someone who killed someone in my family, I don't know how I would react. I don't know how they would react. I'd like to get out of jail one day, the same for all of us here. I'd like to go back in the community and somehow give back. I give lectures, I counsel kids. But how do I possibly ask? One very ordinary moment in time. 2 men on the bus. One bends down to fix his boot, while the other sits near him with the radio. No one means anything special to happen. And then there's a collision of circumstances. 2 people are shot, and 1 dies. The other spends the rest of his life behind bars. Less than 1 minute of time has passed, and all has forever changed.
Where I grew up in the inner city, you didn't plan on seeing 50. Not living the lifestyle that we lived, did you plan on seeing 50? There was a gap in the young men's lives, jail or the graveyard. And the only reason why I'm alive is that I'm in jail. The choices we saw were, you hung out, you went to jail, you sold drugs, you died. We went to the street to find what we didn't have at home. There we squandered our youth.
You should be fed, clothed, and
and kept by the state institution for the rest of your life. You should be fed, clothed, and kept by the state institution for the rest of your life. You should be fed, clothed, and kept by the state institution for the rest of your life.
In 1969, there were jobs in the city of Chester, but then heroin came to my city, tore it up. We didn't know anything about drug addiction or needles. We didn't know that we was messing up our lives. Out of the 11 men that hung out on the corner, only 3 are left, and we 3 are in jail. The rest are all dead. If I had my life to do all over again, I would do it differently. I liked the school, was in the upper percentile of my class, but in 9th grade I started hanging around with the wrong crowd. I even had an English teacher who wanted to adopt me. On her side of the town were trees and quiet streets, but I was already a product of my environment. See, when you grow up with weeds and broken bottles and graffiti, that's all you know. And if you're in too deep, you won't go over to the other side. You know, my neighborhood had bars in it, bars on the window. I'd see bars in this penitentiary. So a lot of people in my neighborhood is in the penitentiary. My life sentence came as a result of some young men's drinking and committing a homicide robbery. You could do something when you're 25 years old that's negative, that affect your life for the next 25 years. Or you could do something positive. The choices I made brought me here. I wasn't there for my children. 3 of them got locked up. When I saw my son as an adult, I didn't even recognize him. Recently, I had a visit from my son's mother, who said she had hated me for the last 22 and a half years because I had honored a commitment to a group of guys instead of her. She went to drugs herself. When you live the lifestyle that I live, something did get taken care of, and that something was her and my son. Only my daughter done well, graduated from college, pursuing her master's degree, but it was her mother who provided her with an education and hope. For a long time, we didn't even talk, and now we're close. But fatherhood is spending time with your children. How can you say you're a father and you haven't put in any time? We don't want people on the outside to see us like cold-blooded murderers, because we're not. A lot of us has been in the penitentiary for the first time, you know. And I looked in the first row and I seen a grown man crying. And as I looked at him, tears, I felt like crying. My generation is old. We don't want to die in the penitentiary. But in Pennsylvania, life means life. We want to build our credibility back, do good deeds, become honorable men. We want y'all to see us as we are and not like we was. I know we've done a lot of wrong, but we got a lot of good that we can do. And I pray and hope that this is not the end of the story.
You should be fed, clothed, and kept by the state institution for the rest of your life. You should be fed, clothed, and kept by the state institution for the rest of your life. You should be fed, clothed, and kept by the state institution for the rest of your life.
When I was a little boy, oh wow. I still can see that bed right now. It's a real big queen-size bed. I think 20 people could fit on it. I don't know how they got the bed in the apartment, in that little room, but they got the bed in that little room. It's real big, giant bed, and a real big quilt. I think my grandmother had made that quilt. You know, it was a real big quilt, so everybody stayed warm. And it was, like I said, it was 5 boys down up one end and 5 girls down the other end. And really, the baby was real small. The baby might end up sleeping on anybody. Then you wake up in the morning, the baby might be on the floor. Everybody look for the baby. Where the baby at? The baby end up on the floor. Somebody. So, you know, it was fun. It was fun.
We were poor back then. And it was at that time I figured I would do something about it. When I turned 11 years old, I used to steal food from my family. I did the same things around the holiday time. I buy clothes. Charlie Brown helped me put it in the cellar. The next morning, I'd leave before the gift opening. This went on for like maybe 2 or 3 years. Then one particular Easter, Mom said, "Francis, where all this stuff come from?" I didn't want to lie to Mom, so I told the truth. She said, "Baby, let me tell you something. You don't have to steal. We're not gonna always have what we want. We just gonna have to do with what we got." I was embarrassed because Mom caught me. So I ran away from home, 10 blocks away. Yeah, I slept in an old house. After that, I came back and made up with mine. After that, I started hanging out with Charlie Brown, real tough. We started stealing copper, radiators. It was money I take and put under the pillow. I was a follower back then, too. I even hooked school a few days a week. My first arrest came when I was 14 years old. I stole a car. After that, I sort of graduated in crime. I used to go to Center City, run the office buildings, breaking in the house with a guy named Cookie. My mom told me never to hang with. When I turned 15 years old, I was arrested for stealing a gun out of a house. The judge said Job Corps or prison. I chose Job Corps. After Job Corps, I wanted to get my life back together. I wanted to stop stealing. I wanted to be a productive man. So I got myself a nice government job. I even got my father a job too. But I had a problem. And my problem was I used to take a lot of Valiums and smoke reefer. Mom used to always say, boy, one day you're gonna take them Valiums, it's gonna get you in a world of trouble. I didn't listen to Mom. I take them pills at night, I sleep it off, I go to work the next morning. This went on for like 6 months. Then one particular morning, I was on my way to work, and I ran into two friends.
Need you to help us round this ball, baby.
No, I'm cool, man. I'm cool. I'm trying to straighten.
Sell us out? All you gotta do is hold the gun.
I'm trying to straighten my life out. I'm going to work. Back up, I'm going to work.
What are you gonna do? Sell us out? Easy money.
I went to work. When I got back home, they asked me the same thing.
What you gonna do?
Come on, I'm cool, man. I'm mine.
Just
Come on, man.
hold the guns for us. That's all. Don't sell us out.
Okay. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hold the guns. That's all I'm gonna do. When we rob the bar, I don't want none of the money. You go your way, I go my way.
All right.
11:30 that night, I took 14 volumes. I fell asleep. Next thing I knew, they were waking me up.
Oh, man, what are you gonna do? Sell us
What's
out?
up? Where we going? Where we going?
We got to hit that bar.
I forgot that we was gonna rob the bar. I was so high. They gave me a shotgun in this hand and a 45 replica in this hand. We were walking down the street.
Come on, man, put them guns
away.
away.
All right.
What are you trying to do? Get us busted?
I was so high, I forgot to put the guns away. The bar was around the corner. We walked in the bar, my two co-defendants announced it was a stick-up. They walked in the pool room part of the bar. I walked in behind them. I looked at everybody. Everybody looked at me. They knew everybody. As my co-defendants were searching everybody, I was tired. And I needed to lean up on something. So I leaned against the pool table. And I put the guns down to my waist. And I went to a nod. And the next thing I know, I heard somebody say,
That's a good way to get hurt.
my hand jerked up. And I heard a blast. I looked at my hand because I didn't know I didn't pull this trigger. I looked around and saw my two co-defendants run out the bar. I wanted to see if anybody got hit. So I stepped to the side. I looked down and I saw my cousin, William Boyd. I killed him. I couldn't believe it when I saw him land on the ground in a pool of blood. All kinds of things went through my mind. I said, did I do this? I can't believe I did this. And if I did it, I know it wasn't on purpose. And I sat there and I stood there and I stared and I looked at him. And that's a look that I'll never forget in my life. I still see that look. I still see his face in my dreams. I still see his face if I'm sitting up there watching television or if I'm looking out the window. I can see his face if I'm sitting on the bleachers watching a basketball game. I just can see it. It's just as hard as me now as it was hard on me back then when I looked down and saw him on that floor. And I know that it was me who done it. I ran out the bar. I walked back down 15th Street and saw two of my friends again.
Man, you shot Billy.
Yeah, I know, man. What happened, man? You said the guns wasn't loaded, man.
Come on, man.
I gotta go back. That's my cousin. I gotta go back. Come on, man.
Come on.
They took me back to the house. Took me upstairs and put me in bed, under a bed. I fell asleep. The next thing I knew, the cops came. They arrested me for murder. I wanted to plead guilty. I told everybody I'd done it, you know. It was an accident. I was hoping to plead guilty to manslaughter when I went to court. My lawyer said no. But when I went to trial, I was found guilty of second-degree murder, and I received a life sentence. I just wish he was alive. I wish none of that never happened. You know, I really wish that. You know.
I wish I could trade places with him and that he could live, that I could die. I really mean that.
I can't breathe, I gotta get out. It's like being in the coffin. I've been here for 27 years. I'm going crazy.
How close I've come to the edge. I've been there. It's been a few nights I've been in my cell. It seems like the cell is coming in on you. It seems like the roof is caving in on you. You get scared, can't breathe.
I know what it feels like to be sane. And I never want to lose it. Never. I don't want to be in nobody's padded cell.
Shots, you okay, Shots? Yeah, I'm all right, I'm cool.
Stay strong.
Yeah, you never know how to can't fight it all. It's coming down.
The logical part is going insane. The illogical part is making all this seem okay.
Hold on.
If I ever get out of jail, I never want to go to a zoo. I don't want to see anything caged up. People look at us like we're superhuman. To be told that you're never going home, that's tough. Some people go to a visit and hang themselves. That's tough.
There's no cure for this, man, you know? I tie my shoes, untie my shoe. I walk to the window and breathe. Anxiety set in. The way I do it, I sing my way out of it.
Hold on to memory. See what tomorrow brings. Hold on to family. Hold on to dignity. Hold on to me. Hold on to sanity. It's been a mystery. Forget about yesterday. Hold on. My mind is here to stay. At night I pray. Hold on.
Death row. Wake up every night, screaming, holler, tears in my eyes. I hear holler. God says me. Feels like 25,000 volts running through your body. But see, in the daytime, you wouldn't know anything is wrong. My hair's falling out. I have ulcers. And at night, when my mind is at ease, the madness makes me scream, screaming in my sleep.
Over the years, I've seen men try all kinds of things to cope with prison life. I've seen people stabbed, cut their wrists, hang up. Men turn into mice, turn to other men, go to mental hospitals, or become so institutionalized that they no longer care about anything or ever wanting to go home. When you stop holding on, it's over.
Hold on to sanity. It's been a mystery. We want you all to see. Hold on. We want to be free. Hold on to me. Hold on. Hold on to me. Hold on. Hold on to me. Hold on.
These eyes have seen the Lord.
These eyes have seen despair.
These eyes have seen humanity at its worst.
These eyes have seen the good in people.
These eyes have looked into another's heart.
These eyes have seen me get old.
These eyes have seen wasted potential.
These eyes have received a lot of pain.
Will these eyes ever see the light of day?
Even though I had some hard times with my stepfather, I was happy most of the time growing up. I enjoyed singing, dancing, and playing ball. I had a way with the children. I got 21 nieces and nephews, and 9 of them are great nieces and nephews. I'm still the one who can always stop them from crying. I always wanted to be part of something. When I got to the age of 10 or 12, I belonged to a little gang out in Southwest Philly. I didn't initiate it, I allowed it to come to me. At the ages of 14 and 16, I changed. I started venturing off and not so good activity. I had my share of Mrs. Williams out the window. She stopped and looked with the phone she'd been dialing. There's something down here with these boys to get ready to get into something. One thing about me, I've done some wrongful things. I skipped this school, so I'm not hanging out today. I wanted to make money. I got caught up with my friends. Now I think that's where my trouble had started. I always was following someone else. I never learned how to read and write. They could just push us through the 9th and 10th grade, but I dropped out. At the age of 19, I was coming from a job interview, and I ran into two guys who was getting ready to do a robbery.
Check this out, Sam. That's what we need you to do. We can ready to rob this store, right? What we need you to do is go inside, put your hand in your coat, stand there. That's all you got to do. We take care of the rest.
Since I was tall, they was looking for a lookout man. One had a gun. They was on heroin. I never done this stuff. In the store, they got money off the guy, and the one guy said, "Let's go." I ran a half a block away. I heard a shot. I never even seen the man that got hit. I went down South Philly, and the cops were looking for one of my co-defendants, but not us. That Sunday afternoon, I came back and found out that the girl I was messing with was pregnant. I was so happy.
You're under arrest.
Next thing you knew,
let's go.
the cops came. I had strength, but I didn't know what was coming. I never thought I would get life for my degree of participation. At the police station, someone had made a statement. I was illiterate and didn't understand. I've been down for 28 years. I went upgraded for it. And inside of it looked like it was 3 miles long with 4 kids looking at you. I ran into a couple of my homies. They were shouting out. Yeah. What's up? Who was you? I got into fights. I wasn't taking anything from anyone. My first 5 or 7 years of my sentence, I had to adjust to a physical change. When to walk, when to talk, and when to eat, and when to sleep. Next, I had to deal with the mental and the spiritual time. 5 years into my sentence, they gave me an outside clearance. I was a trustee with no handcuffs, no shackles. Man, the jail looked like a college campus from the inside out, with a farm beside it. I seen ducks and cows and horses. Sometimes we should sit up on the hilltops and reminisce, and sometimes we cried. I used to cook for a lot of commissioners and different department heads. They used to have banquets. One day they invited the governor's wife, Jenny Thornburg, over, and I made a banana cream pie. She really enjoyed it. She asked my supervisor who made it. They said I did. I was a little nervous when I met her. She said, "Oh, the pie was real tasty." She wanted to take me home. And I said, "I do windows too." Right. Since being in here, I learned to hold on to family ties. In '93, my mother had passed away. She used to come visit me at least once a month for 19 years. We create our own wrongs. We learn from our own experiences. I'm sad, but that's part of the test and the struggle I have to overcome. The Creator does not put a burden on us that we cannot bear. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't ask for forgiveness. That's why I pray 5 times a day. I'll apologize to my family and those I have made a cause of harm to. I'm harder on myself. I remember the stages I was in. I was illiterate to life, and now I'm seasoned. I learned a lot about my obligations. I want to give back. I talk to people about the things that brought me here. I just want the opportunity to grow again. No one knows how much more time he has left on this earth. And I have already missed a generation of nieces and nephews. And now they are having babies. I want to be out there for the next generation.
It means a lot to us. You know, it means children growing up without fathers, being there with your children. It also means it is a means of escaping. Picture me in the picture. To be a part of families even though we're in the penitentiary.
My mom sent me a picture of Christmas one time. There's a whole lot of Christmas lights in it. Reindeer, Santa Claus. I even see my brothers in the picture, and I mentally put myself in the picture. I got up this morning, feeling fresh and free. My mind and my heart has left this penitentiary. All alone in myself, on my knees I pray. Just give us the strength to live another day. Picture you, picture you.
I haven't seen my daughter since I've been in prison. My daughter's 33 years old.
Me and my mother was very, very, very close.
I have a daughter that's 25, I had a son that's 25, and I have another daughter that's 23.
My youngest son, I've seen him 2 times in 32 years. So it took me about 10 years to realize that that I wasn't going to see my children.
At times she'd be in the kitchen cooking, and she could sometimes visualize me standing right there beside her.
They don't know me, and they're embarrassed that I'm here.
I spent a lot of time with my son the day before I went to court. And he was so young, he don't even remember it.
Me sitting in prison and looking at her, how beautiful she is, and knowing that she needs a father out there, it was like, what did I do?
You know, in times of need, you just can't be there. You can't reach out and help them or touch them. I mean, you can talk to them on the phone, but it's not the same thing.
About the gloom of our prison cells, no clanging of the gates, oh, no ringing of the bells. Our mind is at peace, just leave us alone and let us be. We want to go back home, oh mama. We're dying to be with you.
When they take my baby away, they take a part of my life.
I never see my son walk in my house again or walk down the street.
I goes in his room, I weeps and I pray.
I'm living life with my son, you know, and I tried to show him. I said, it may seem like I'm having fun out there because I can go out the door, because I'm living in hell too.
It used to always break my heart when, you know, we would get ready to go through the steel doors and everything to get in there where he was. And it would just break my heart to see him standing there. And then when it came time to leave, I didn't want to leave, but I knew I had to go. They weren't going to let me stay.
Seeing him sing, I was like joyful. I was so happy that I just couldn't keep the tears back. Yeah, to see him sing, it was like being home again.
We're dying to be with you. So many nights we dreamed about the way it used to be. Used to be. Free like thee. On the street. Free like thee. It's just you.
There's another bell for me. Freedom, momentarily.
Sometimes I think back to slavery and my ancestors being chained to a boat. I relate the devastation they went through to what it was like for me on death row. I was 19. I was sentenced by the state of Pennsylvania to die in the electric chair. 25,000 volts of electricity running through my body. Before killing me, I was to live in a single cage by myself for 47 and a half out of every 48 hours. This was the kind of isolation that could break a man. It almost drove me crazy. 20 years ago, There was a lot of injustice, turmoil in this country. Much of that spilled over into the prison system. They had me up in the mountains, west end of the state. The guards had beards and big bellies. Many of them came from white hate groups. It was a zoo up there. Guys throwing fists, banging their heads against the wall, yelling and screaming all night and day. The cells had mice and roaches.
Not tonight.
Come on, make me like
Not at all.
There you go with that.
Got something for you.
Down there messing with Teya again.
That again.
John. Why you spit my, they spit my food again?
Right. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. Medication.
Yeah, don't go on.
No, you ain't supposed to be handing out medication. You ain't supposed to be handing out medication.
It's a miserable joke, man. Miserable.
25,000 volts, baby. I got a pill. 25,000 volts.
That's right. Stick up for yourself, T.
Yard out. Yard, man.
Okay, nah. They burnt me yesterday.
Shackle is doing stuff.
Go on the yard, officer.
They putting shackles on T, man.
Come on out. Yard. Let him out. Let him out.
Get him off.
Let him out.
Can I go to the yard, officer?
You want yard?
Yeah.
Burnt me yesterday. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere.
That's too
You ain't calling you? You think you calling like that? I ain't gonna have
I got T in the yard. Bring the shackles on him. Put the shackles on him.
Bring him in.
Kill you.
I'm getting ready for a visit. They strip you. Usually there's one guard, but this time there were 8. Something tells me that something isn't right. I'm thinking,
Yeah, nigga, we gonna kill
they
you.
wanna hurt
Deal
you.
with that nigga stuff again, man.
Yeah.
I'm sad to see my family, my mother and children. I want to make it to see them, for it's the only humanity I have left.
Y'all come in here, y'all throw my medication, y'all spitting my food.
That's right. Tell him, Terry.
What do y'all want from me? The only thing I want to do is see my
Tell
family.
him, Terry.
Okay.
See, I was young. I didn't know I was strong. I didn't know what fear is.
What?
I saw abuse all around.
What?
I felt like when you do this to someone else, it's like you're doing it to me. I learned the power of the pen. I wrote grievances. I wrote to the NAACP, Amnesty International, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, the ACLU, saw that I had so many complaints, they came to see me. They sent me a compendium on law and a prisoner's self-help litigation manual. It teaches you how to do class action lawsuits. I was labeled a troublemaker.
Boy, who you think you are? You think you're a city slicker or something?
The book says you come with Mr. Jones.
Speak up for yourself.
My birthday is one day after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s. See, I consider myself strong. I wouldn't let my keepers win.
Yeah, T again. You
Yeah,
said.
speak up for yourself, T.
Yeah, they mess with me again.
Y'all go home. Some of y'all got wives.
They ain't got no life.
I have nothing. Why do y'all want to make me miserable?
Shut up. We're gonna kill you.
That's all you know.
Then do it.
My
You can
death
do it.
sentence was overturned from death to life, December the 15th, 1989. The courts found that my counsel had been incompetent. But see, all those years on death row took their toll. So much has happened to me, it was driving me crazy. That sometimes a thought or a dream would trigger a memory, and I'll wake up hollering from the shock what all I lived through. I'm like a POW with post-traumatic stress. For 6.5 years, I never touched anyone, went anywhere alone or without shackles. What it did, it taught me how to do everything by myself. When I finally went back in the population, I had to learn how to be around people all over again. It took me 2 years to find myself again. But I survived. I watched my life like it was a TV show, waiting on the day for it to get better, and it did. It did. While waiting on my grievances to be filed, many of the people at the place where I was were fired or relocated. I continued to do positive things for myself and to help better other people. Eventually, I had the opportunity to come here to Chester, where I continued to study law, to speak out, and never ever will I give up hope or not pray that one day I will be free.
These feet want to walk through the streets.
These feet want to walk out the front door.
These feet have shuffled.
These feet have been shackled.
These feet were threatened with the electric chair, 25,000 volts.
These feet have walked the last mile.
These feet want to take a 2-week cruise to nowhere.
These feet hurt.
These feet don't want to walk backwards.
I did things for the wrong reasons. And, you know, now you have time to look back at it and think about all the things and where you went wrong. But that's where my main problem was. Once I got hooked on the drugs, I didn't realize I was hooked on the drugs. I did methamphetamine probably 10 years. And I just constantly, you know, it would escalate or escalate. You know, I'd be up for 2, 3, 4 days at a time, just constantly working, trying to make money. But when I look back at it, I had enough money. 1978, I was living the American dream. I had a wife, a house, cars, kid on the way, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more money, more drugs, more action. Something inside of me just kept on pulling me back to the streets. I was out all night working, hustling. Life was too fast, too easy, and too dangerous until that fateful night when we settled scores and 2 people ended up dead and I was arrested. Convicted of first-degree murder. Hearing the jury say guilty, my lawyer said I'd be out in 20. However, I found out in Pennsylvania, you never get out on a life sentence. Life means just that, life. Now I lay here in my cell, thinking about it every day, wondering if I'll ever get to go home. In confession, I felt a sense of relief, stop carrying this burden inside of me. I felt good. I felt like I was going back to where I came from. Like when I grew up, you know, going to Catholic school, you're always around the nuns, going to church. I felt like I was going back to where I belong, because sometimes I would sit back and think about how things were and when things were right, when I wasn't really doing anything wrong. In jail, I learned to respect a lot of people, to appreciate the little things. At 2 a.m., wanting to get something to eat, a phone call, a letter. I never wrote when I was on the streets. Here, when you get a letter, it means so much. I learned to talk from the heart. I was real cold out there. I learned to appreciate my family. We all have a common goal, to go home. I am one of 2 white lifers here at Chester. Days can be numbered here. My actions affect 30 other guys. My responsibility is to use my words to speak for others. Sometimes you get up to the top and forget the people at the bottom. Not me. In here, guys show their weaknesses. Out there, they don't. If they show you, you have to be there for them. So I asked myself, will I go to heaven? The biggest thing was, will I go to heaven? Well, I mean, God has forgiven me for my sins or whatever, but you still have to pay for that. Is this my time down here paying for it or whatever? I don't know. I don't know if I would make it to heaven.
Well, I was addicted just the age 18 to when I was like 29, and I was almost died twice. You know about that, consequences with the addiction that I used to have in the society. But I never want to recognize that I have a problem when I was in the society. You know, even that I had a problem, and there was a lot of good people around me that they want to give me the chance, you know, the opportunity to rehabilitate myself. But I didn't want to accept that, you know, because I was into it so deep.
Sometimes I look outside myself and I don't see the barbed wires on the Great Wall. I see some mangoes. See the rooster in the front porch. See the papaya trees, sugar cane, cinnamon trees. I see my little sister in the backyard. I see home. When he was in society, he had a wife and kids. Everything was fine. He was a lovable dad, the best father.
But he was a drug dealer. He ran the corners and he made a lot of money. He polluted his community. If he wasn't in prison, he'd be dead.
In the drug world, you don't know who your friends are. People who live in that lifestyle, they're not your friends. They put the finger on him. They accuse him of homicide. They testify against him.
When someone testifies against you, it's hard to prove your innocence. He's been in 17 years on a life sentence. He keeps himself strong behind these prison walls. He's like a big brother and a counselor to the young brothers here.
He'd like to see one more hour. He'd feel good to know one more hour. There are times when he feels weak and down in spirit, but sometimes he feels strong. Sometimes when we feel weak, we are strong.
He writes to Christian people from all over the United States and says prayers for them. That makes him feel good, like he's here for a reason.
I'm a happy man.
Quiero que me tengas confianza para usarme en tu obra, mi Señor. Quiero que ilumines al mundo a través de mi vida con tu luz. Quiero que la gente me escuche cuando hable a ellos la verdad. Quiero que reflejes tu vida y tu inmensa más de ti. Mucho más de ti. Quiero que controle mi mente, te estaré por siempre. Más de ti, más de ti. Mucho más de ti. Quiero que controle mi mente, te estaré por siempre. Más de ti. I thank God for the opportunity to bring me into this world, for my family who provide for me all these years. I'm grateful for all the people that I met all these years. I'm thankful to still sing with joy. Más de ti, mucho más de ti. Quiero que controles mi mente, estaré por siempre. Más de ti.
The only one that they can change the day is me. Be who I am and be a happy man.
If someone was to ask me, what's the most profound thing about prison? I'd probably say it's that you get up every morning. Prison is the most inhumane place on earth. We're emasculated. We can't be who we are. We have someone my children's age telling us all day to stay to the right, to stay to the right. Yet, since being in prison, I've learned so much about myself. Love. I've always known that love can heal anything. It's the most powerful element on earth. Sometimes you can love something so much that you'll protect it with all your life. You humble yourself, but when you stand up for certain things, there are consequences. I stood up for my people. I stood up for asking questions and for being curious in school about why they taught us so much about Jesse James, Adolf Hitler, Al Capone, who were all mass murderers, but spoke so little about the Indians or told the truth about slavery. I asked questions. I got in trouble sometimes. After high school in the 60s, I started going places and hearing people like H. Rap Brown, Abby Hoffman, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Ali. There were other people who believed that there was something wrong with America and why blacks wasn't getting their share. We saw a lot of prejudice. I got involved with the Black Unity Council and later the Black Panthers. We were just a bunch of people in our neighborhood who wanted to uplift our community. During that time, the Vietnam War broke, and there were protests, confrontations with the establishment. Things in America escalated. On August 29th, 1970, a parked car was killed in the station. 2 days later, several policemen were shot in a shootout. I was arrested and treated like public enemy #1. I was threatened every day. Guns was put to my head. I was beaten. 6 of us was convicted for assault on a parked car. I had 2 trials. I was convicted of conspiracy and given the same sentence as if I pulled the trigger. Life. I had a co-defendant who was on the lam for 26 years. In 1997, after 27 years of incarceration, they called me down and said that if I testified against him, that they would do all they could to get me released. I grew up with certain values, and I had a certain reputation for being honest, upright, and dependable in prison. After 27 years, witnesses were dead. They wanted me to lie. They said that my co-defendant was a shooter and that they wanted me to testify that I seen him pull the trigger. Even if I would have seen it, I wouldn't have testified. Prison is a city within a city. Being a snitch is a very, very cool life in prison. I lost a lot by not testifying. I lost my freedom. I lost my family. But what I didn't lose was what I believed in. My dignity, my self-respect, and me.
I've seen seasons change, blood flows through my veins, and I remain still standing. I've seen the face of war and hate. I've heard the call of reason, seen the power of love on earth, and I believe in healing. I've seen seasons change, blood flows through my veins, and I remain still standing.
Early in my sentence, I was bitter. I couldn't see my life being cut off at such a young age, 25 years old. In 1970, I was a husband with 2 sons and a daughter, who I haven't seen since. If 2 of my children were sitting right out here with y'all this evening, I probably wouldn't even know them. But then you realize you can't stay bitter forever. You still have to grow as a person. And when you see people in prison who never learned how to read or write, you can be helpful here. And you realize your bitterness is no longer that important. Love. Love is like a cloud moving so gracefully. You can see love in a look, a touch, a smile. I miss touch. I miss the human touch. I miss a woman's touch. Her holding my hand, rubbing my back. I miss that more than anything else. I miss the priceless things too that you can't take with you. But I would love to find a good woman to love and marry. I prepare for that every single day and trying to make myself the kind of person and husband that God would want me to be. Spirituality is a lifelong thing that you never get enough of. It's unlimited and ever present, not only in humans, but in all living things. Seasons change. Prisoners come and go. Lifers grow older. Some die, never leaving prison. Hearts beat. Blood flows. Wars begin. Families disintegrate. New men enter the system, and new leaders fight for freedoms and justice. Children and grandchildren are born and grow. Some see their fathers for the first time in prison. Seasons change. Leaves fall. Colors change. I've seen it all from behind these walls.
I know the price of freedom, and still the cause of dignity is something I believe in. I've seen seasons change, blood flows through my veins, and I remain still standing. I remain still standing. I remain still standing.
I'd like to say I'm sorry to everyone that I ever hurt. I truly never meant to hurt anyone.
I apologize to my parents, my children who had to grow up without a father. I apologize to the victim and his family who probably, like me, been a grandfather. I'm truly sorry.
I apologize to my family, and I apologize to my son. I wasn't there for him. I apologize to the victim's family. I wonder where my victim would have been. Maybe a mechanic, maybe a movie star. I don't know, but I took that right from him. I apologize to anybody who my crime may have affected. If my victim could live these next 27 years, and I could take his place, I would. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, because I lived a good life. I apologize to everyone. Is my mother out there? I apologize to you, Mama, for taking you through all these troubles, all these years. Sorry.
Le pido perdón primeramente a Dios, a mis víctimas y a los familiares de las víctimas, a mis familiares y a cada uno de los que le ha hecho mal.
Mama, you've been through so much. I only ask that you forgive me. I love you, girl.
Jones, career, Lyons, Guglielmo, Joyner, Fox, Smith, Boyd.
Just give us one